All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Barnes, the Director of the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. I'd like to also start by welcoming a good morning to all of those people that are watching online. Right now, our word is we've actually got hundreds of people that have logged in this morning to watch this event. So it's an extremely important discussion to have, and we're glad that if you couldn't be here with us in person, that you can be here virtually. So with that, I'm going to apologize for the next thing I'm going to do, but you can participate at home just the same. It's the end of this Veterans Day week. If you're a veteran, can I ask you to please stand and be recognized? And if you're a family member of a veteran, please stand also, because we can't do it without any of you. So I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your schedule to be here today, because this is an extremely important conversation for us to have. I want to start by telling you a little bit about the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. The governor talked about it this morning. He created it through executive order in March of 2013, so we are a roaring 8 months old. But you know the governor in dog years, so that makes us actually about 5.5 years old. So we are well on our way. The key for us is we have a lot of activities, a lot of things going on in the state around veterans. And this panel couldn't have teed up the remarks that I'm going to make any more appropriately. And the key is for the agency to serve as a central coordinating point for all things veteran across the state, and to focus efforts in the areas that make the most meaningful impact to our veterans. And those are education, employment, healthcare, and quality of life issues, all things that were just mentioned by this panel. And those are the things that make a meaningful impact in the lives of our veterans and allow them to transition into what I refer to as the next chapter of their life. Because they've done great service in the military, they've had great experiences, but that's one portion of their life, and they have a whole story yet to write. And it's extremely important for us to be able to take time and focus our efforts around those areas to help them make that transition. Today, our discussion is completely about employment. And our goals for this summit is to share employer best practices from across the state and across the country. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with the panels that we've assembled for you today. What you're going to find is an attitude of action within all of the people that are going to be presenting to you today, and people that are problem solvers, which I think you clearly can look at the collaboration that has been discussed between the university and community college sector and these employers. The exciting thing is those are discussions that are happening all across the state right now. The other thing that we wanted to be able to tell you a little bit about is to make you aware of the tools and the resources that are available to you as employers and higher education institutions, so that you're able to recruit and connect with veteran talent more effectively. And finally, we want to leave today turning the discussion that we have into action. And that is the measure of whether or not we're going to be successful with what we're doing with our veterans' efforts. Earlier this morning, the governor introduced some veteran talent that we have here. We have a dozen veteran talent, some on the stage, some not, that are incredible stories. They are representative of hundreds of veterans across the state of Michigan right now that are available for employment. And that's a fantastic thing when we start talking about the future of talent, supply, and demand in the state of Michigan. But at the end of Afghanistan, as our war starts to wind down there, we know that we're going to have more veterans returning to the state of Michigan. In fact, we anticipate somewhere around 10,000 per year for the next 3 to 5 years once the Department of Defense starts going through force restructuring. And to put that into perspective, think about our two largest universities, the University of Michigan and Michigan State University. Their average spring commencement size over the last couple of years has been 10 to 15,000 students. So we are bringing online a new talent supply that equals almost the efforts that each one of those institutions perform. And so I can tell you, much like university students, our veterans have a few things in common. A wide array of interests, probably a little bit of jokes to go in there, and several ambitions and talents to move forward in life. But unlike a lot of those new grads, they already have incredible work experience. They've had the ability to work in teams, develop leadership and management skills under fairly demanding circumstances that actually separate them from the rest of the pack. I tell you that story because many of you in the room have a recruiting strategy around those university programs and those spring commencements. But what we've got to be able to do is make the connection so that you have a veterans recruitment strategy to meet that talent pipeline. Because we believe that we've got the kind of talent that would fit throughout your organization. And what we want to have is a discussion around not only entry-level positions, but also being able to apply to your middle management and your future corporate level officer positions. And this is a lesson that we've learned in the state of Michigan before. After all, a lot of influence in our communities have been developed by veterans themselves. You heard Mr. Manoogian this morning share his story, his experience with the Air National Guard. Richard DeVos Sr. served as an Army Air Corpsman and attained the rank of Private First Class, as a story that he usually tells to our commanding general in the Michigan National Guard, General Vadnais. You did a little bit better than I did, General. Of course, which the general usually responds with, you did okay yourself. But think about the influence on a community, both from a business standpoint and a philanthropic standpoint. And here, closer to the metro area, Mike Ilitch. I won't say a former U.S. Marine, because as my Marines in the audience will quickly say, there is no such thing as a former Marine. But each of them have in common with them, they share that their military experience helped shape and set the foundation for the success that they've been able to achieve since returning to the community. These are extremely important things. So I could go on and talk to you about the intangibles of hiring a veteran, the leadership that you bring to the field. But I want to highlight a couple of things that are business incentives for you to think about. Veterans today leave the military with 5 years of free health care. So that means across the state of Michigan, they have access to one of 23 VA medical facilities, either health centers or community-based outpatient clinics, where they can get some of those ailments and those pre-existing conditions treated, or they can go for wellness checks, immunizations, and the other things that are important to them and their families. There are tax credits for employers. Tax credits that range from $2,400 to $9,600 a year per veteran that you hire. So there's a significant incentive to be able to make that connection with veterans. But there are a couple of things that we don't talk about very often. Relocation allowances. A lot of our businesses have been impacted over the last 5 and 10 years of the economy that we don't have the ability to recruit out of state. And one of the things that the governor talked about today is we should make Michigan a destination for our veteran community. And the military pays for the last move that a service member makes. And so we do have the ability to link you to the talent and identify where those talent pools exist within the state of Michigan and also across the country. And the military can help make that transition for the last move. The other thing that the military provides is a GI Bill. And we've talked a lot about the GI Bill today and how that is an extremely important part of making that pivot into your next career. But for those that have had cuts in continuing education programs throughout your organizations, this serves as a great opportunity as long as you can create the flexibility in the schedule for your veterans to go on and receive additional credentialing and certification to work in your career field, as well as move on to get an executive MBA that will help your organization grow and prosper years from now. So to help you pursue a veteran hiring strategy, we've created a couple of tools at the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. I'm going to ask that we post the PowerPoint. We're going to introduce a couple of tools to you. This is the Michigan Veterans Affairs portal. We invite you to take a look at it, michiganveterans.com. And you'll see different sections in here on employment, education, healthcare, and quality of life. If we can click on the employment, you'll see an entry point for both employers and veterans here. You click on to the employer side. You'll see the information that I just described with tax credits and the value of hiring veterans. Coming over the course of the spring, we're going to be able to introduce some new tools to you. Pure Michigan Talent Connect, that many of you use already, will have some skills latticing translators in it that will help veterans translate their skill sets into the job postings that you have. And for the employer, it'll make it easier for employers to identify the skill sets that will be a good fit for their organization. We're going to be rolling that out in the spring and providing some HR training and some resources around it that should be a real benefit for you. The other piece that we're going to add to it is a locator that will provide some heat mapping technology to you. So you can see where veterans that fit your job descriptions and needs are located in the state of Michigan, and also be able to look at some of those active duty installations nationwide that have large densities of your skill set that you need, so that we can try to do some recruiting to attract talent to the state. So all of these things are great things. They're steps in the right direction, but it takes all of us working together to build a collaborative effort to search for the solutions that we need. And a lot of that is continuing this dialogue. We were partnering up with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Workforce Development, and my agency to be able to offer you some help in developing a veterans strategy, a veterans hiring and recruiting strategy. And you will be able to find that on the website that I just posted you. We'd love to be able to work closely with you to broker these discussions and to connect you to the veteran talent that we believe will help shape your organizations for years to come. Thank you very much. So I get a couple of cool things that I get to do as the Director of Veterans Affairs. Today, this is by far the most outstanding opportunity that I've had. We have a speaker that's going to be coming up to share the stage in just a minute. That is the epitome of every one of those tangible skills that I just shared with you. And I want to read to you the bio because Staff Sergeant Guinta has made an extreme commitment of service and dedication to this country, and we are very honored. This is one of 6 living Medal of Honor recipients from our current conflicts, and this is the nation's highest esteemed honor. So it is an extreme honor, Sergeant, for me to be able to make this introduction. A valiant leader, former U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Sal Guinta was introduced by President Barack Obama as being as humble as he is courageous when he was presented with our nation's highest military decoration, the Medal of Honor, for his heroic actions during combat in the Korengal Valley of Afghanistan. After Guinta's unit was ambushed and pinned down by at least a dozen Taliban fighters who fired shots from 2 simultaneously at close range. Guinta was hit twice while running into enemy fire to pull his fellow soldiers to cover. After insurgents began carrying away a fellow soldier, Guinta engaged the enemy, provided medical aid to his wounded comrade, and ultimately saved a soldier from being taken by the enemy. His courage and leadership while under extreme enemy fire were integral to the team's survival and led to his selection of being selected as the first living recipient of the Medal of Honor since the Vietnam War. Ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the video board.
I got the phone call, and he was crying, he was upset. And I said, can you tell me about it? And he said it very strong. He says, I will tell you once, and I won't tell you again, and don't ask any questions. So Steve grabbed the other phone, and we listened to what had happened that day.
We were on a large battalion operation where we were pretty much the main effort.
Kind of one of those nights where it wasn't totally dark, but it was getting dark. The terrain was in such a case where we had to walk pretty much ducks in a row.
There was times we were on all fours crawling up, our hands and knees crawling up the terrain, trying to get into position. We knew they wanted to fight. We knew we were in uncharted territory, somewhere we hadn't been.
Sergeant Brennan, my team leader, he got probably about 10 to 15 meters into the clearing, and we heard what appeared to be a pop shot at the time. It was just a single shot. Probably about a second later, it didn't even take long. The whole 12 opened up on us.
First platoon, being the lead platoon out, walked right into an L-shaped ambush. So close that the assets flying above couldn't distinguish between who was bad and who was good.
I remember our squad leader, he'd taken a bullet right through his helmet. It just barely grazed his skin.
I got shot in the stomach, and then I also heard my team leader, Sergeant Brennan, say that he'd been hit.
I mean, there were RPGs, PKMs.
Around in the helmet, and got shot in the leg.
Everybody in that first squad was just shot. Sergeant Guinta sees these guys getting hit in front of him and immediately starts, bounding up to their positions after being shot twice in the chest.
He ran past us.
I didn't know where he went. I didn't know why he went.
He fought through the initial wall of lead.
They were dragging Sergeant Brennan away at that point.
He ran through the ambush, engaged 3 individuals that were running off with Sergeant Brennan's body.
I mean, they were taking on, they were trying to grab his friend, and he went out there and he went after him. And it made perfect sense why he did that.
From what we know, he killed at least one of the enemy, grabs Sergeant Brennan, makes sure that he's okay, and then drives him back over to the rest of the platoon that's still being engaged in combat with the enemy. When I talked to Sergeant Guinta, you know, one-on-one later on, it was more or less like, hey man, I don't know how you did it, but why did you do it?
He was saying it through anger and through lots of sadness. You could tell at the moment that he was telling us he was actually reliving it.
I saw two people carrying one person, kind of by the hands and by the feet. But as I ran closer, I kind of realized more what was actually going on. And it was two ACM carrying Sergeant Brennan. So I just started shooting. I mean, that's what we do. And I grabbed Sergeant Brennan and dragged him back a little bit, but he was still alive and he was talking. He just was talking about how his face hurt, and he was shot in his legs, and he was shot in his arms. Just tried to reassure him, you know, everything's gonna be okay, everything's fine.
The foundation of this family, this tight-knit group that was forged together in the blast furnace of combat, he felt like any number of those guys would have done the same thing for him.
I didn't run on to do anything heroic. I ran on to go fight next to my brother, to go fight next to my friend who I already served one tour in Afghanistan with, who we live in the same barracks building for the last 4 years.
And he probably would have felt worse if he hadn't done it than he did, you know, having to go through there and live through that painstaking event and see his friend basically die.
They took Josh up on the helicopter, and then they had a long walk back. And I don't know if it was when they got back or the following day they were told that they lost Josh. And what Sal told us on that phone call, he says, he was alive, Mom. When they took him up, he was alive. I expected to find him alive when I got back. And that was hard for him. We've not talked to him again about that day. You know, we vowed that we wouldn't ask him questions. So we have his version that he told us through the tears and the emotions, and then we hear the news through everybody else, what that looked like.
It started sounding like some story I had heard about or read about in World War I or World War II with Audie Murphy. You don't hear about single individuals taking on the responsibility to lead their squad when they're a specialist, treat their squad leader after they've been shot 3 times, and then third, go repatriate their best friend from behind enemy lines that's being dragged away by the enemy, and then to run back into the kill zone to start treating his men.
I've never heard anybody doing that on their own. I wouldn't say we were heroes. I would say definitely he was. I would definitely say he was a hero that night.
No matter what happens for the rest of my life, I'll always know that I was around the great ones, you know?
I remember the friends I lost every day, regardless of any medal. That medal puts me in a position where I'm able to tell the world about how great Sergeant Brennan, Specialist Mendoza are, and to tell the story of the men that are around me.
He is a low-key guy, a humble guy, and he doesn't seek the limelight. And he'll tell you that he didn't do anything special, that he was just doing his job, that any of his brothers in the unit would do the same thing.
All these spotlights right now are on me, but I wasn't there. I wasn't the only one there that night. I've never gone to battle alone. I've never been in a gunfight alone.
That's why Salvatore Guinta risked his life for his fellow soldiers, because they would risk their lives for him. That's what fueled his bravery. Not just the urgent impulse to have their backs, but the absolute confidence that they had his.
And I hope with all these years I can make that apparent to the world, that these people go out there and do this every single day, year after year, deployment after deployment, and it's taxing, but there is that great of people in our country willing to do this. And I hope that if I got the spotlights on me, that I can show the world that there is amazing people out there.
Staff Sergeant Sal Junta. I appreciate it.
Thank you, please. Can you hear me okay? Son? So, I am a product of my environment. I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm a Midwest guy, neighbors to the south. And when I was growing up, my parents supported me in everything. That was a lie. They didn't support me in everything that I did. They supported me in most everything that I did, my right decisions at least. I grew up in a caring family. My mother and father taught me about respect. They taught me about commitment. They taught me about why we live such great lives. No one in my family, in my direct family, had ever served in the military. My family came over in 1904 and settled in Clinton, Iowa, where I was raised. And I knew of service. I knew what was going on. I watched the news. But it was never anything for me. I remember growing up in the first Gulf War and seeing the pictures of these people on TV fighting for our freedom. And it touched me. But I never thought about what that would mean later. I went to high school, and in lack of ratting myself out, I'm going to say that I was easily excited and an explosion of energy and very undirected, which is not always the most positive thing for an 18-year-old male to be, but that's what I was. When I was a junior in high school, I remember I was sitting in chemistry class, and we were doing the viscosity of liquid. We were dropping these little metal balls into liquid and seeing, the viscosity of the liquid. Interesting. And someone came to the door of the classroom and they said, "Hey, turn on the TV. A plane just hit a building in New York." That's not very often someone comes into a classroom and tells you to turn on the TV. And we turned on the TV. And in my mind, before the TV came on, I'm thinking, this little plane hit this building and, what a terrible accident. You think they would have saw it. And when we turned on the TV, it wasn't a little plane. It was a huge plane. And it was a huge building. And all of us were watching it on TV unfold, and we're thinking, how is this terrible accident happen? And as we're all sitting there thinking the same thing, the second plane came in and hit the second building. And in that instant, it was proof that it was not an accident. It was on purpose. It was planned. It was an attack. This was the first time since Pearl Harbor that we had been attacked on American soil. And it was blatant, and it was ugly, and it was against innocent men, women, and children. I told you I was excited. I sat there in class, and I'm like, holy cow, I cannot sit and do this viscosity of liquid anymore. I got to quit school. I got to join the military. I'm going to go over there, kick some butt, finish this war, and come back. But that's not how life works. There's an order and a process, and you don't just get to go over there unprepared. And that feeling of this country being the greatest country in the world and I want to serve it, all of a sudden became a fleeting feeling. And I was worried about the test I had next week, and if I had a date to the dance, and what are my hours like at work, and do I have to work all weekend? And over the next year, that emotion of doing something turned into me, I need this, I need that, and this is what I need to go forward. And I was a senior in high school, and I was very self-absorbed. It was always about me. It wasn't about what we're doing next. It's about what I'm doing next, and you can come along if you want, but this is what I'm going to do. And so I worked at Subway. I did have an after-school job, and I was a sandwich artist, and it wasn't my career. It was just, I was good at what I did, though, even then, as a sandwich artist. And I was working at Subway, and I think it was maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and the store was closed, and I was sweeping or mopping the floor, and this radio commercial came on. It said something to the tune of, come on down, see a recruiter, get a free t-shirt. I'm mopping the floor at Subway at 10 o'clock at night. Of course I want a free t-shirt. That's awesome. So I went in the next day, and I talked to the recruiter, just like the commercial said I had to get the free t-shirt. And the recruiter said to me very simply, "We are a country at war. We've been in Afghanistan since 2001. We've been in Iraq since March 26, 2003. You are an able-bodied male. If you want to make a tangible difference in this country, join the military. You can start today. And I said, man, that is a motivating speech. But I really did just come for the t-shirt, so I appreciate it. I got a job. I work at Subway. Thank you. I said, whoa, you know, take this test, this ASVAB test. And my parents were kind of, I don't want to say on my case, but they were definitely on my case about not planning on going to school. It wasn't in my plans in life. I was going to go explore and adventure, and school was sitting still and listening, and that's far from the adventure that I was seeking. I said, take the test. It explained to me that it was going to be a long test and it was going to validate my skills, and I'm like, this will get my folks off my back, because I didn't take the ACTs. I didn't take the SATs, but I took the ASVAB. And after I took the test, I had to come back to find out how I did on the test. And over the course of those maybe 10 days that it took for that test to be evaluated, I started thinking about what the recruiter said. I was like, you know, that would be an adventure. And I could sign up for 4 years, and we are a country at war. And this would be my chance to make this positive impact. I can adventure all I want in the States, but it's not going to necessarily be a positive deal. It's just going to be an adventure. So I went in, and I got my scores, and he said I can do anything I want. And I thought, good, because I'm going to sign up. But I heard these stories about, you know, if you don't know what you're talking about, they'll rope you into something you don't necessarily want to do. The recruiter might take advantage of you. So in fear of feeling like I was going to be taken advantage of, I had to think quickly on what I wanted to do real quick, because I already made the decision I was going to join, and I like to think of myself as a man of action, so I was ready to sign papers that day. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do, and I'm kind of like looking up, and I saw this parachute hanging from the sky, from the ceiling in the office. I was like, hey, want to jump out of planes? He goes, yeah, that's 150 extra bucks a month. Yeah. So obviously he knew I meant business, because I'm already choosing the jobs with the bonuses. And he said, well, you know, what else do you want to do? Because you get an actual job with that. And I was like, you know, spit and swear and fight bad guys and travel the world. And he goes, hey, go no further. There's an actual job description that is just that. Airborne infantry, you're going to love it. And I was like, oh, is that the stuff they do on TV? He said, absolutely, that's the stuff they do on TV. I'm like, sign me up. I'll do 4 years. It sounds like that's like college time right there. Everyone else is going to get out of college, and I'm going to come back for more. Perfect. So I joined. When I joined because I was naive. I joined because I was worried that the war was going to be over. I needed to get there before it ended. I wanted to say I've done something for this country, and I didn't know what else to do, but this was my chance, and it was right there in front of me, so why not do this now? And I learned a very different story. We as Americans, we as American men and women in service, in all these branches of service, are so fortunate, because when we fight, we do not fight because we hate the people we're fighting against. We fight because we love the people we're fighting for. There's a commitment, a passion to say, hey, do you know what? We are the 1% of this country that's willing to do this, and I don't hate them, but I love them so much I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I was 18 years old. I never voted, not a second in my life, not a ballot, not a check mark, nothing. I wanted to do what the people of the United States wanted me to do. I wanted to be their man of action. I wanted to serve with the best. When I went into basic training, it was just that. It was the start. It was the tip of the iceberg in military training. And the first thing I learned about was respect in the team. I told them, hey, I played sports. I know about winning as a team, losing as a team. I know about respect. I respect all of you. I said, whoa. It's about respecting yourself. If you don't respect yourself, you're not respecting everyone in the team if you consider yourself part of the team. And I had to find value in myself before I could put value on everyone else, to acknowledge the strength of the team. That's lesson one, day one. There's adults walking this planet now that still don't get that lesson one, day one, that we learned in basic training in the military. The next was commitment. The commitment not just to say, hey, we're in this together until it's over, let's go to war, but the commitment to one another to say, hey, regardless of any scenario that's going to come out of this, I will cover you. I will do whatever it takes to make sure you succeed. I don't care about myself as an individual anymore. I care about those to the left and to the right of me. And the crazy thing is, when everyone is committed to each other 100%, you don't have to worry about yourself, because you're worrying about left and the right. But in turn, you're being cared for by two people that'll give everything for you. It's pretty special. That doesn't exist in this world all the time. I wish it did. It would make the world a lot better place. These are first week lessons that every military person learns. I went through and I also learned another valuable lesson, that teaching doesn't always have to happen at a desk with a pen and paper. Sometimes teaching gets to happen by doing push-ups and running around in circles and saying things that they have taught you, and if you don't, you just do more push-ups and run in more circles. It was a valid lesson to learn because I found out not everyone learns the same way. I kind of thought that in high school, but I learned that in the military. I learned really good through push-ups because they hurt after a while, so I'll learn quick, trust me, because I'm not going to last that long. I learned about the heartbeat of America. Not just, I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Like I said, I maybe traveled to 5 states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Missouri, Nebraska, Illinois, Iowa. Covered a good section of the Midwest. I know good people, but I don't know a great diversity of people. I was only 18 years old. My first buddy in the military, we were assigned to each other. We did not pick each other as buddies because we were not chatty Cathys. We were assigned to each other. My last name is Guinta. His last name is Gibson. The alphabet just works that way. I was on the top bunk. He was on the bottom bunk. Gibson was a Haitian from Miami. And I didn't understand quite every word he was saying. I wasn't sure if he was speaking English or if I was wrong. And I've never met anyone like him before in anything I've ever done in my life. And we were automatically assigned as best friends. And when I was in trouble, he was in trouble. When he was in trouble, I was in trouble. And when he had to go to the restroom, I had to go to the restroom. And that's how it's going to work. And through that, I learned about this love. Because we're all there for the same reason. This common task. This goal-oriented group of people that I came up with in the military. We're all doing it for the same exact reason. For everyone that wasn't doing it. To ensure that the United States of America continued to be the greatest country in the world. We knew the torch that was handed on to us. World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. We saw the men and women shed their lives for this great country to make it the greatest country in the world, and far be it from us to lose that title as number one. After basic training, I thought I was the top dog, man. I'm ready for war now. I just spent 14 weeks here getting yelled at, doing push-ups, learning stuff, shooting guns, spitting, swearing. It was an adventure. And I went to airborne school. And airborne school gave me an opportunity to do something that basic training hadn't done. Face a fear. I wasn't nervous at basic training. It was fun. Airborne school, though, jumping out of a plane seems very strange. And jumping out of a plane fast is awkward, and to do it with a whole bunch of people is really strange because it gets weird in the air. But it's not any of that that's the worry. It's hitting the ground because it is coming no matter what, and it's coming fast, I promise you. But it was facing that fear, and alone, I don't know if I would have done it. But we're in the military. We don't do anything alone. We do it as a team. We do it as a group. And to see the strength of the men and women that were around me run out that door of the plane gave me the complete and total confidence that I can run out that plane. Everything's going to be fine because we're going to do it together. And when we hit the ground, we can laugh and joke about it quietly. Otherwise, we're going to do more push-ups. And then we can move on with our lives. We did that as a unit, as a team. All of a sudden, we have all this cohesion. And we think, hey, together, we can do anything. Well, check it out. None of us were going to be together anymore. That was the last day we were all going to be together. We're going to go to wherever the Army sends us, whatever we signed up for, whatever the task was going to be. I was assigned to the 173rd Airborne Infantry in Vicenza, Italy. The group that I showed up to was a group of men. I say men because in the infantry there's only men. There was a group of men that existed in Vicenza, Italy in 2004. In a first world country, we hadn't seen groups of thousands of combat veterans since Vietnam. I don't know how they react to this. This is like the TV stuff. Hey, I passed basic training. I passed airborne school. Guys, one team, one fight, right? Let's do this. I was so naive. I was so clueless to think that we're all there on the same level. They had the experience. I still had yet to figure out that to be able to do what they did, I must learn from those who have done it before. Otherwise, I'm trying to reinvent a wheel that doesn't need reinventing. Those men took me under their wing. Not necessarily in the softest manner, but they took care of me and they told me what it was going to be like, and it wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't this war I saw on TV. We don't get to go and fight and win and come back and drink beers and kiss pretty ladies. It's going to be a battle. And it's not going to be our decisions that we're doing. All we have to focus on is the guy to the left, the guy to the right, morally and ethically correct decisions, and we'll come out of this okay. My first deployment to Afghanistan was the first time I was able to put in practice everything that we had trained. And my life up to that point, I played sports, so you practice for like 2 weeks and you play your first game. Then you only practice for like 4 days and then you get another game, then 4 days and another game. And you're constantly evaluated and validating your skills that you have learned and the lessons along the way. This is the first time I sat there for a year learning stuff. And the only way to put it to practical use was going to combat. That night, before we deployed out of Vicenza, Italy, there's no fanfare. No one sees you off. The Italians don't care. We move out in the middle of the night. It's not that real exciting moment, but I've only been that excited one other time in my entire life. And it was when my daughter was born. At 18, I didn't know about how exciting children were going to be. So going to combat was my Christmas morning. I couldn't wait to get there. I couldn't wait to get down to business. I was motivated, I was driven, I had purpose and direction, and I had a whole bunch of people with me that were in the same boat. I had excellent leaders to lead. I'll follow, I'm in, this is the team. They're not going to make a bad decision because we had confidence in one another, that team cohesion, that one unit. We'd been in Afghanistan for about 2 months, and things were heating up. It was summer months. There was quite a bit of combat. Most of our combat was small arms fire. We never took vehicles. There was no IED threat because we walked or we did helicopter missions on target. And then once done, we went back home. When I say we went back home, we went to a mud hut in the middle of a valley in Afghanistan, about 55 kilometers from any other Americans. No running water, no electricity. The only ones we had was each other. That was home. That's how we lived. We did more with less. That's an ability of the military. The military, the individuals using the tools, never ask for more. People up here ask for more. The people will do whatever they need to do. The men and women in the armed services will do whatever they need to do to get the job done because they understand this is the goal. This is where we need to end up at the end of the day. This is where we need to end up at the end of the year or the end of this war. About 2 months in, I was out with 8 guys and we were going after some bad guys. And I was shot in my leg. It was a ricochet, it tripped me. I fell down the mountainside. I yelled that I was hit. We were moving in this battle drill 1 alpha. It's like the infantryman's bread and butter, right? So they move, we shoot. We move, they shoot. All the time when you're moving, when you're running forward towards the enemy, you don't have to worry about shooting your gun because someone else is supporting you. Someone has your back. They're looking out for you. They'll keep their heads down because they love you. That commitment, again, to the mission, to the team, to the group. When I was running and I got hit and I went down, I yelled that I got shot. But I fell down like halfway down this mountainside. Not halfway down, I fell like 15 feet. My arms hurt, my head hurt, everything hurt, and everything was bleeding. And where my leg really hurt. I reached down and I was trying to feel my leg and I felt it and I'm bleeding everywhere else but not where I think I got shot. So all of a sudden the thought runs through my mind, oh, bummer. I yelled that I got shot and I didn't. I just tripped and now I'm hurt because I fell down the side of a hill. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to admit to the people around me that I was weak. That's what I thought happened. I thought I got shot. We moved forward the rest of that day. That was about a 22-hour day, the 8 of us, constant movement, constantly physical and engaging the enemy as we went. We ran out of water. Helicopter came in, gave us more water. We ran out of bullets. Helicopter came in, gave us more bullets. Check it out. We will always complete the mission, even if we don't even have the appropriate tools. We know how to put the square peg into the round hole. I figured it out. You just got to beat it in there because that's what they asked. Give the people what they want. As a veteran in any company, I think that's strength right there. Give them purpose. Give them direction. Watch them succeed. Allow the company, allow the group to succeed with the individual. We got back And after something like that, usually get checked out, and I had all sorts of ouchies and boo-boos all over. And I'm like, Doc, man, fell. Dang it. And he started feeling my leg, and he goes, hey, dude, you got shot. I'm like, yes, I knew it. I knew I got shot. I was worried about that one. I've never lived that down. He pulled out the bullet. I spent 10 days eating ice cream, hanging out in the shower. I met the Denver Bronco cheerleaders. It was cool. I went back to the boys who never once left, continually fighting for those 10 days that I was on vacation, resting my leg. They continued the mission without one person, which I tell you what, we can't sacrifice one person. But they did, and they still succeeded. They still kept the fight up. It doesn't matter how many people are in the team, they'll still complete the mission. About a month and a half later, we had a group of folks come out with HESCOs, or these metal wire cages that we put dirt in, and they're thick so then bullets can't go through, so then that's our protection. And I told you we didn't ever drive, we didn't have any vehicles, so the group that brought those out, they had to drive to us. They had a mission, not for themselves, it had nothing to do with them. This was not going to benefit them, this was going to be a long road for them, but to benefit us. They knew that the team is only as strong as every link. And we, at that point, were a weak link out in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan. And they came to our aid, not because it benefited them, but because it benefited us. When they turned around to leave, the lead truck hit an IED. 4 guys were killed, 1 lost both legs. And that was the first time I'd felt such a loss. I'd seen in my life, I thought I was a tough guy. I'd seen people die. I'd never seen a young, strong, confident, brave, selfless American die in my entire life. And it rattled me. It rattled me to the core. And I was hurt. I didn't know how to handle it. I grew up in a great family. They say, you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So I stopped talking. Didn't not talk at all. I just, without running water, electricity, TVs, anything like that, all you did was talk. We don't have anything else. It's either work or talk. A week later, we went after a high-value target. He came out of the house, him and his guys came out of the house, guns blazing, shot our lieutenant in the face. And all of a sudden, this bad week and a half in the military, this bad week and a half in Afghanistan, at 19 years old, I started getting this feeling like, I'm going to die here. I think we only got 35 guys. We lost 6 in the last week. I don't think this is going to be as positive as I thought. And I started, that seed of doubt was creeping in. I sat there on my bunk one night. It's probably a day later. And the first person that came up to me and just sat there was my team leader. In the military, we understand responsibility. Everyone knows the best way to be a leader is to know the pros and the cons of your people, to know their skills and their weaknesses. He knew my skills and my weaknesses. One of my skills is talking, running my mouth, and I was not running it. So there was a problem. He saw that. He knew that not because I told him, but because he cared enough about everyone there that he knew that. And he came over to me and he said, Sal, look, man, it's okay. Things hurt. This is war. This is why it's so terrible. This is why everyone doesn't do it, because it's awful. It's disgusting. It's terrible. But you're here and you're doing it now, and we need you. He said, look, no matter what happens today, know this. You have been given the opportunity and the privilege to give 100%. And God willing, if we see tomorrow, we will be given that opportunity and that privilege to give 100% again. That is something that is so wonderful. And almost every day of my life before that day, I took it for granted. The opportunity to give 100% in everything I did. He said the sun's going to come up no matter what, whether you're going to see it or not. It's coming. I don't know how that helps anything, Sergeant Post, but I'm cool now, right? Okay, I'm cool if we can stop the talks. But I get it. I get the 100%. I want to be there 100%. I didn't join this to not try as hard as I can. The rest of that deployment was long and it was rough, but we did it, and we did it together. When we came back, I had this idea. I joined for 4 years, so 6 to 8 months of training and basic training in airborne school to a year train up to a year deployment. I'm getting out. I checked all my boxes. I fought, I bled, I sweat, I got shot, I traveled the world, I got my adventure, I'm done. And in that contract that I signed, there was a line about stop loss, and I don't know what stop loss was, and I didn't really care because I was getting paid 150 extra bucks to jump out of a plane, and I'll initial wherever you want me to if I'm getting paid that kind of money. And stop loss says if you're deemed essential, you're good at what you do, or they just need you, they can keep you. And it was a heartbreaker. I signed a contract with a very reputable source, the United States of America, and I read it mostly, and it said I was going to do 4 years, and all of a sudden they have smarter people with fancier words that I didn't understand, but they were saying that they were going to keep me, and it doesn't matter that I signed for 4 years because I'm going to do more. Resiliency, perseverance. It's not about how many times you get knocked down, I promise you that. It's about how many times you get up. No one's cared, hey, I screwed up 100 times, but I got up 101 times and I'm coming back for more, and one of these times I'm bound to get it right. That's what it's about. That's what the men and women in the military are capable of doing, not just in combat, but in life. Not just in everyday life, but in a corporation. We understand failure is not always a bad thing. There's lessons to learn. You'll never know how far or hard or smart or great you are until you fall short. That's when you really realize where you stand. If you succeed at everything you do, you must not be trying very hard. You should try to go outside your comfort zone. That's what the military teaches at a basic level with life and death. If a veteran comes to a company, you don't have to put life and death on the line. They already got that. You don't need to teach the lessons of bouncing back up, picking yourself up because the company depends on this. They get it. They already know that. It's not about getting paid a paycheck. It's about getting the job done. That is a quality that I believe is innately military. When I was told that I was going to stay, I was actually told because of the newspaper. No one came up and actually formally told me. It was the newspaper that said, hey, we're going to deploy. No one's going anywhere, which pretty much means I'm not going home. And my buddy came up to me and he said, hey, Sal, super stoked you're coming with this, man. Looking forward to it. Well, Art, I'm not looking forward to it at all, man. I had other plans. I was going to go back home and I was going to do other things, and this is not part of my plans. But that's not why he was excited. He wasn't excited because I was angry. He was excited because we got to keep this connection. We got to keep the right people in the right places. We had that commitment to each other, not just in combat, but everywhere. My second time to Afghanistan, I got to become a leader. And for the first time, I got to put the practices that were presented to me in place. When I say I got to be a leader, I got to be 21 years old in charge of 4 people's everything, up to and including their life. At 21 years old, that's the military. They teach responsibility at a young age, but they teach leadership at a young age. Because that's who we have fighting. Through that excitement, through that joy of being the leader, I met great dudes, and I led the way I wanted to lead. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I'm not a big yeller, but I am very task-oriented. I was brought up in a place that said, hey, you know what? Hey, how far are you guys going today? Oh, you're going to run 3 miles and do 100 push-ups? Hey, guys, we're running 5 miles and doing 200 push-ups. And it's not because I hate you, and it's not because I think running 5 miles is better than running 3 or doing 200 push-ups is better than doing 100. It's because I know for a fact running 5 miles is better than running 3, and I know for a fact 200 is better than 100. So that's what we're going to do. That's the kind of people that brought me up. It's not about how hard you try. It's about trying your hardest. It doesn't matter if you can succeed with 90%. Why would you want to do that? Why don't you just blow them out of the water and give 100%? That's our opportunity every single day. In Afghanistan, the second time, it was very different. We stayed in about 6 kilometer by 6 kilometer valley. There was 135 of us. We went there with plans of building schools and digging wells and meeting the people and letting them know, hey, we're not conquerors. We're not here to take your land. Your land's not that impressive anyway. We came here to assist. We never built a school. We never dug a well. They fought us every single day. We went to assist. They came to fight. We reciprocated. That was not our choice. That was theirs. They set their guns down. We're not going to shoot them. That's unfair. We're Americans. We have rules. We have values. We have ethics. We have care and compassion in our war. They don't. That's okay. We don't have to play fair. We know we're better than you. Not because someone told us, because everything we do is better than you. Because we care and you hate. Because you destroy and we'll try to create, but you got to give us some space and stop shooting at us. In October, we went out on a 5-day mission. On that 5-day mission, it was a battalion-wide mission. We're moving 1,000 people through the mountains of Afghanistan. We're going to let them shoot at us, and then, hey, that's a bad guy. We'll find him all the way there until all the bad guys stop shooting at us. Or They could lay down their weapons and farm. We got skills to teach them. They were unwilling to learn them. They wanted to fight. That's okay. We came with guns and stuff too. On October 24th, we had a scout team, 3 people, moved quietly, bigger guns, better optics, they see things further away, and they're quiet. Our scout team was overran. They were killed. Their weapons, body armor, bullets, night vision goggles, guns were taken. And we'd never been beaten like that before. We'd lost people, but we'd never not been able to be there with our people. That was the first time. The next day, we went out, not because we wanted to go fight them, but because we needed that stuff back. We use the night vision goggles. It's very important. We own the night. And we use infrared lasers that you can only see with the night vision goggles, so we can talk to the helicopter above and say, hey, see that building? There's bad guys in there. Will you make that disappear so we don't have to go over there and fight them? And they'll do that. Now all of a sudden, the enemy has the same ability that we do, and you can't use that laser to point at them anymore because they see it. It changed the way we were going to do business in the valley. We set out at about 2:30 in the morning. We were getting about 3 hours of sleep a night. We're living on the edge. And we walked for maybe 2.5 hours. We set up in a position halfway up a mountainside. Our job was to overwatch the folks that were going into the village to talk to the people. They could have done that alone, but we don't trust those people. So we covered them. Up the mountain, a little bit higher, maybe 400, 500 yards, we had another group of 15, 18 people. And their job was to cover us so no one took the high ground on us. We understand how things have to work because no one can do it alone. And everyone needs someone to watch their back. We understand the team-oriented goals of what we're doing. We sat there all day, maybe 14 hours or so until it was dark. We have standards of what we do. None of us are running around all willy-nilly. We train for this. We are professional soldiers. That is something that is so special. These folks that we have in the military today, they don't have other jobs. They're 100% focused on the goal. They are professional soldiers. When they get out of the military, give them a goal. Let them be 100% focused on that goal, and they will impress the heck out of you. We started walking out 10 to 15 meters between people, and all of a sudden, the world exploded. RPGs, PKMs, anything you can think of, it was happening. It was 2007. Everyone has a machine gun. Thousands of rounds are in the air. The enemy line is about 30 meters away from us. It's hard to miss when each person's shooting about 1,000 rounds. It's pretty easy to get hit. We shoot tracers that are bullets that glow, right? So you can see them with the naked eye. And between every glowing bullet we shoot, there's 4 ones that aren't glowing. So you can tell if that looks like a line of orange, know that there's a whole bunch of stuff in the darkness that you're not seeing. Those are bullets too. And they did the same thing, but their bullets glow green. All of a sudden, it looked like a million green things coming at all of us. First thing I did was get down. I looked back to my guys, the guys I'm responsible to, the guys that are more important than my own life. Clary's laying on the ground shooting 203s, a grenade about the size of my fist. Clary's standing there with the M249 Saul, squad automatic weapon. He stood there. He never once took a knee. He stood there and shot at a rate of 900 rounds per minute, 200 bullets at a time. He looked like a dragon blowing fire. He did not do that for his sake, I promise you that. He became the target. In a group of 18 people, one person made himself the target, Caleb Casey. Knowing that I can't direct people who are professionals in doing everything I would tell. I can move on to the next task. My task next was going to see what my squad leader wanted me to do. We understand the hierarchy of responsibility. We understand decision makers, but we are all capable of making the decision when the time comes. When I look forward to Gallardo, I saw him get hit in the head and fall. And I was overcome. I was angry. I was sad. My whole world was falling apart right there on that mountainside in a matter of seconds. And I was so overcome with what was happening. I ran forward to grab Gallardo, and I just didn't want to see him get shot anymore, and I wanted to drag him back. So I started dragging Gallardo back. I got shot in the chest, but the chest is where we have our body armor. I got shot. He carried a rocket launcher, a small D over my back. My rocket launcher got shot. No big deal. I just know I can't shoot that rocket launcher anymore because it has a hole in it. It would hurt anyone who had it, so I can't even pass it off because someone will forget that in a time of desperate need. As I was dragging Gallardo back, he started stumbling to his feet. The first thing he said was not, I'm okay, I feel okay, I need help. He said, grenades. Nothing about himself. Nothing, not once. He said what we need to do. I carried 3 grenades with me. We ran from the south and from the south to the north. The ambush line was on our west. I threw the grenade. I threw my first grenade. We just continued running. We were throwing the grenade actually over the enemy line because they were that close. Caleb Casey and Garrett Clary were still laying down fire. I'm not doing anything yet. I'm just running around like a maniac, not knowing what's going on. I've shot maybe 5 bullets at that time. Everyone else was doing everything else. When I ran up, I was running by Eckroad, and Eckroad was on the ground. He was shot twice in the leg, twice in the chest, and Gallardo peeled off, and Gallardo went to Eckroad. The confidence in one another. I knew Eckroad was going to be okay because Gallardo had him. Gallardo was the guy who trained us. We only had so many people, and we had 1,000,000 tasks to do, so we had more tasks than people, so we got to move, and we can't double up on one task because we have confidence that they will do that, and we will do this, and we will keep on moving. I got to tell you a story about Sergeant Brennan and resilience. I told you I got shot in my calf, and I was out for 10 days eating ice cream, taking showers. In September of 2007, Sergeant Brennan got shot in his calf. Went clean through, and I'm like, oh, dude, ice cream, showers, hope you see some cheerleaders, best of luck. If you go back to Italy, have a drink for me. He walked himself out of the valley. He went with privates that he was taking on leave. We couldn't afford to lose anyone else, so he was going to walk himself out of the valley. No medevac was going to come. Not only was he going to walk himself out, he was going to lead everyone else because he was a leader first. Being shot in the leg was insignificant. He was a leader, so he led. He knew what his job title meant because he held it in his heart. 2 days later, this Black Hawk helicopter came in, and we're thinking, maybe some mail, maybe something else. We're really looking forward to the things to come out of it. And it was jumped out of the helicopter with Sergeant Brennan. I'm like, dude, 2 days. He said, the showers are making me soft, the food's making me fat, I feel lazy, let's go do this. That's the kind of guy Sergeant Brennan was. In a near ambush situation, the book says, charge the ambush line. Create chaos amongst their ranks. You shoot them, they shoot you, last man standing, you're on the winning team. When I couldn't find where Brennan was, I knew what Brennan did. Brennan's a hard charger. Brennan's a leader. He leads from the front. You can't lead from the back, I promise you that. You can manage from the back, you can observe from the back, but you can't lead from the back, you lead from the front. I figured, Brennan charged the ambush line alone, and I can't, after the whole shot incident, I'm out for 10 days on a ricochet, and he's gone for 2 days on being shot clean through. I'm not going to let him hold this one against me. I'm not going to be that guy twice. I need to make sure I give my 100% because everyone else was giving their 100%. I ran forward to fight with Brennan, to get with Brennan, to be part of that team, to have that confidence that we're going to do it together. And when I saw him, it was a very different scenario. They were carrying his body away for no reason other than some crappy reason they thought up of some propaganda, I'm sure. Just evil. Evil. He was still alive. I did what I was trained to do, close with and destroy the enemies of the United States of America in close combat. That's what the infantryman does. That's what I did. I did not do anything special. I did exactly what it says in my job title. I did exactly what it said when I talked to the recruiter and I said, hey, this is what I like to do. And he said, I got that. Check this description out. I did what I was supposed to do. That is what we expect of every man and woman in the service today. It is not up to them what they have to do. It's that they raised their hand and they said, we are willing to do whatever has to happen. I did my job. I dragged Brennan back because we were in this very awkward situation next to the enemy ambush line. As I dragged Brennan back, we set up a casualty collection point. 1 poncho with a person in it, 2 poncho with a person in it, 3 poncho with a person in it, 4 poncho with a person in it. There's only 18 of us, and I got 4 guys behind me, and I got 1 laying here dying in front of me. The sacrifice is real. We had 2 Apache helicopters above us. No, they're not just letting us run around on the ground aimlessly. We are the best military in the world. I don't know if I mentioned that. I said the best country, but we really are the best military in the world. They were covering us the whole time. The only reason why they couldn't do anything is because of close proximity between us and the enemy. Once they realized we're not giving up, and this is all happening in a matter of a minute and a half, you don't get much time when you're that close with machine guns. The enemy broke contact and started retreating down the hill. Once they broke contact and moved, the helicopter above came in, wiped out the enemy. We worked on Brennan. We put him up in the helicopter. Medevac helicopter came in. We put up our wounded in our KIA. That's not over. We're still on the mountainside in Afghanistan. That wasn't the mission for the day. The mission wasn't get in a firefight and then quit once you're done with it. The mission was keep on going all the time, never quit. We're not gone for another 10 months. We were there for 15 months. We're on a 15-month deployment. So October 25th, our day doesn't get to be over because we had a bad day. It doesn't get to be over because we're tired and sad. That wasn't the goal for the day, so we can't be done. We walked back to the base, and we were told that Sergeant Brennan had died in surgery. We were told that Specialist Mendoza, our medic, had died within the first couple seconds of the ambush. The other guys were going to be okay. Ekrod was going to be okay. Ekrod actually came back to us. His legs are tiny, and shots must not have been that bad. That was October 25th, 2007. That day is not a special day. That day is just another day of what our men and women in uniform face every single day. That unknown. I would hire a veteran because if you're not sure where you're going, they can still lead you through the unknown. That's what they do for work every single day in the military. Face the unknown, face the fear, face the challenges, and commit 100% not just to the goal, but to those around them. I stand here today because the great state of Michigan, that's probably the first time I ever said that. The great state of Michigan has stepped up and done something that the other 49 states need to start paying attention to and learning lessons. We are talking about the value of our veterans. We are writing into law things that will assist some of the greatest people I know, my brothers and sisters, the ones that led me, the ones that followed me, and the ones that stood to the left and to the right of me. If there's anything that I can leave all of you with, it is that I am an average soldier. I am one of so many, and I am not special. But we together are special, and we are capable, and whatever you ask us to do will get done. Remember that, regardless of the task. Purpose, give direction, and expect it to be complete because they will fulfill every wish you had and most of your dreams too. I want to leave you with that. I think this group here is so amazing. These veterans that were up here talking from every branch of service, I love you guys, my brothers and sisters in arms. Thank you. For all those that stood up earlier, thank you. To the Vietnam folks in the audience, we only have it so good today. It has never been as good as it is right now, ever. And the only reason we have it so good is because the Vietnam generation was disrespected. They were shunned for what they did, not for themselves, but for their country, and they have ensured that we won't go through the same thing. So to the Vietnam folks in the room, thank you. You have put the boots in the sand, the boots in the jungle, and you have given us a path and a way to live our lives, and you have set the bar high, and we will not fail you. We will not fail this country, and we will not fail in what we do, and if we do, we will bounce back with resilience and perseverance, and we will be there better and stronger and smarter the next time. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for everything. Thank you to the state of Michigan, the Governor's Summit on Veterans Talents, and everyone that's here that cares. There is service through support. You don't have to wear camouflage and carry a gun. We can all do this together. We're the greatest country in the world. I have faith in it. Believe in it as well. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you, Saul, for your message. It's extremely powerful, and thank you for your leadership. Your leadership is what we all aspire to be. And thank you so much for creating a message that our employers can take with them today to show the resiliency and the fight that our soldiers, seamen, airmen, and Marines all have inside. So thank you so much for being here today and being a part of this event. Thank you. One more round of applause for him. So we've got something a little bit better than MREs. Sal's used to eating those, all right? But we ask that you come back in. We've got our national panel that will begin in about 5 minutes. All of the food is located out here to my left, your right. Ask you to go out, pick up your lunch, and come back in, and we'll start again. Thank you.